This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to the Men Are the Prize podcast. It is me. It is Harvey, your host. How you doing? I hope it's been a good week, a good day for you. And I'm lucky again to have a great guest. George Brooks is with us. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much. We're just gonna get right into it. When I look for guests, I look for men, obviously, because this is a podcast for men. We're talking about our issues, what's going on with us, and I look for men in, I don't know if interesting is the right word, but in situations that are maybe atypical, so that we
Right.
can see how we deal with them and how we go with our struggles and how we survive. So reading up on George, I'm like, this is somebody we need to talk to. So I'm glad to have you on. Here's a
All right.
quick intro, and then we get right into it from
All
George's ears, from his mouth, excuse me. I've been
right.
living with mental illness since age 7. I've lived through abuse, weight loss surgery, childhood obesity, many health issues, addiction, divorce trauma, custody battles, raising a son with mental illness, poverty, starting a nonprofit, and much more as a Black man, all while struggling with a couple of serious diagnoses and thriving. I've started several business ventures, am a mental health advocate, CEO, life coach, public speaker, writer, and producer, and live the challenges of each day and count the strength and wisdom I gain from my journey as a blessing. I have learned and experienced a lot, and I'm looking to share and inspire others, and that's exactly what I hope to get from you.
Right.
So that's a powerful intro. There's a lot to unpack with that. So
There
we'll
is.
just get right to it. So your intro, there's a lot of information in there, but what I always like to start with when I talk to people is the bio that we create when we're going to be a guest or when we're doing a job interview and we want people to kind of get to know us on the written sheet. But let's say I pulled up on you on the street and I didn't get a chance to read that. And I wanted 15 seconds. I was like, I got 20 seconds. What do I need to know to really understand George? What would you tell me right now?
Basically, what I would tell you, it would depend on the capacity, but I would tell
Mhm,
you that I'm a person that has been through a lot,
mhm.
has experienced a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, a lot of tragedy, but I want to use it to help anyone and everyone. So, what I often tell people when I encounter them is that, I ask them how they're doing. I just introduce myself and try to pay it forward as far as my mood and my emotions, and I try to meet each person and try to leave them with something positive for myself. So that's
Okay.
what I do all the time.
Excellent. That's a good way. That's a good way to meet people because people won't forget that. It's a rarity,
Yeah,
especially for men, to be honest. It's a rarity when we have a conversation where it feels like the other person is literally interested in how we're doing.
true.
That's the thing with us men. We're so used to dealing and supporting and helping others that it's a rarity. When's the last time somebody just came up to you and said, "How you doing?" and
Well,
asked
it's
you and meant it?
right, and it's a relief for us because as men, we often feel like we have to be the problem solvers.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
sometimes it's nice just to be able to ask someone, "How's your day going?" and not have to feel just burdened with, not burdened, but feel as though you have to solve all their problems.
Exactly. It's
Sometimes just
responsible.
saying hello to someone is enough to get them through the day.
No doubt, no doubt. I feel you. That responsibility of dealing with somebody's issues or their situations. It's good sometimes to just maybe I'm the center of attention for a minute, that type of thing.
Yeah,
So
sometimes.
it's a good feeling.
Right.
So from there we'll go. So the way this podcast works is I like the word prize. Always saw these, I guess, these social media posts, these podcasts about how women are the prize. And I've
Right.
always believed that men are the prize. I'm not excluding women from being prizes, but I think we are the prize also.
Sure.
And what I want to do is I'm hoping this podcast will help men realize that. So that's what I came up with. I took the word and I broke it down into a few factors. So 4 of the letters represent a word or a characteristic that I think really define what a good man is or what a good man should be. The first letter in the word prize is P. The first word is purpose. Purpose
Right.
is defined as reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists.
Right.
So, George, what is your purpose?
My purpose is to use my pain, to use everything I've been through, good and bad, and try to make everyone that I can encounter better. That's why I started my nonprofit. was because I knew that certain positions I was in, from a mental health and just background standpoint, I was blessed in the sense I was able to articulate what I was going through. I was able to speak up for myself. I was able to represent myself pretty well. And I would think about people in my position that couldn't do that. So I wanted to act as a voice for them. I wanted to help break down the stigma. So that is my purpose. Now, let me say this. There is a difference. A lot of times we men, we get confused between a purpose and a dream.
Okay.
A dream is to play in the NBA. A dream is to hit a home run. But a purpose is what you do after that. A purpose is your legacy. A purpose encompasses your whole life. So it's cool to have a dream, but what do you do after that dream? What is your purpose? So my purpose is to try to take what many people would take as something that will break them and build others up.
Okay. Okay. So I'll ask you, since when I just read your bio a few minutes ago, and obviously there's a lot in there, a lot that you've gone through. So what I'll ask you to do is kind of give me an idea of how you enact your purpose based on who you speak with. So for example, you said you had a lot of health issues, but you said you were raising a child with mental illness also. So
Right.
I'm a father. Now, I literally am a father. I'm a stay-at-home dad of four. But let's just say I am a parent who comes to you at the Med Association, and I'm struggling dealing with a son who's autistic or a
Yeah.
son who has ADD, ADHD.
Right.
How do you talk to me? Give me an idea of what kind of conversation we're having to help me deal with this, because it's a heavy load as a parent to deal with a
Right.
child with mental health issues. What would you say?
Right. Well, when they come to Meta Association, I deal with them as a parent. I deal with them as an advocate in the sense that I make sure that I have resources that they may need to help them. But on an honest level, I deal with them as a parent because I deal with a bipolar 17-year-old son.
Okay.
And that's been very, very difficult, especially compounded with the custody battles I've had to fight. So it's been very hard. And one thing that I encounter is that parents who also have children in similar situations, they tend to internalize a lot and take they almost blame themselves for it. And one thing I try to do is say that as long as you're doing the right things, as long as you're making sure they're on their care, they're safe, and that you're doing everything, then it's not your fault. You know, that I find myself saying that a lot to different parents is that it's okay, take care of yourself. Do everything you can for your child, but at a certain point, that child begins to make their own decisions. Once they hit about 14, 15, 16, they become they're their own person. So you can only do so much. But when I deal with people that Meta, I deal with them as a mental health patient, as an advocate, and as a parent. And whatever the capacity they come to me as, that's what I try to identify with them as.
When I hear you talking, one thing that I find important is a tendency, and I think it's parents in general, but obviously I can speak as a father. When we're taking care of our kids, we have a tendency to really focus on them. They've become the focus of our lives, everything they do. And obviously, as parents, that's what we should do. But when we do that, we have a tendency to forget somebody, and that's
Yeah,
ourselves.
right,
It's,
right.
to me, when I think about it, it's I'm on a plane and we crash, and they always tell you to put your mask on first. Take care of yourself first so you can help everybody else. And we don't think that way. It's always what's going on with my son. I need to help him. But if I'm not happy, if I'm not content, if I'm having whatever issues, how much can I really help my child or my spouse or
Yeah,
anybody else?
exactly. You
So,
can't because you don't have the reserves at that point.
right.
You don't have the emotional energy, the emotional fortitude at that point because you didn't take care of yourself. And you know, I've been through that situation, and sometimes as parents dealing with children with mental illness, or just dealing with children in general because they're
Sir.
exhausting.
Right.
You know, we don't often take time for ourselves, and we have to understand, you know, at a certain point, everything that we try to impart to them has either taken or not taken. Okay, and they get to a certain point where they're gonna make their own decisions, and we have to let them make those decisions and sometimes make those mistakes, because if we try to hold their hand too much, not only do we degrade ourselves, but we encumber them a lot. You see it, especially with children with mental illness, you see a lot of arrested development. You see a lot of late bloomers because a lot of times as parents with mentally ill children, we get so used to coddling them and being so protective that we don't realize we're really just holding them back. And that's the situation, these are things I'm currently dealing with. So yeah, I mean, a lot is parents. The main thing I would say is definitely self-care. You have to learn to turn that off for a moment and restore your batteries, because what if the situation you have other children?
Okay.
You can't focus all on one or so much on one that the other don't get what they need. So it's a complicated thing. Just raising children in general is difficult. Being a black man raising children is unique in itself.
No doubt.
That's a whole other. I mean, you could talk for hours just on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But parenting is exhausting, but parenting is rewarding.
Yes,
But
sir.
no one has a patent on how to do it right.
Oh, I wish there
So
was.
yeah. So we all have to kind of find our own way, and just hope we do the best we can, and hope we raise the best people possible.
So you just mentioned something, obviously, black men here talking. And if you had I don't want to say regular because that word doesn't fit, but if you had a child, a 17-year-old son who wasn't bipolar and didn't have any mental health issues, it would be difficult in itself to raise him, especially in the world
Very,
that we live in now. Can
very.
you elaborate on how difficult and how more difficult it is raising a son in this world, knowing his safety is in danger pretty much all the time, and add on top of that, a mental illness like being bipolar, which makes it even more dangerous for him?
Well, in raising a black child, especially a black son, there are so many things just coming out the womb that you have to do differently. It just in the sense of, when they're young and they see the police, you have to start then teaching them, yeah, they're the police, they're there to protect you, but yet you still have to behave this way in this situation, especially once they start driving.
Right.
Things like being around people of different races and how you carry yourself and the vibe you give off, how to deal with racism and prejudice, because you will deal with it, but how to circumvent it without letting it be an excuse and a cop out for you. So those are just a few of the things, raising a black son that we have to deal with. And on top of that, you add the mental illness component where you're dealing with already a health issue, a chronic health issue, and you're dealing with the stigma in society that they would have to deal with. You're dealing with their flare-ups and illnesses that may put them at risk for police intervention or police interaction. You're dealing with their family, uh, who may not be supportive of their care. So it's so much that goes into it, and plus just society as a whole that I found as a black father doesn't give us the same respect that they do other fathers. That's been my experience, especially those of us that are really out here being fathers. Um, that are the ones taken to the doctor's appointments. They're the ones that are up in the middle of the night when they're sick. They're the ones that are actually registering for school. I've got more disrespect just being a father than I have if I were not being a father. So those are some of the challenges that we deal with in raising black sons. And you add a mental illness on top of it, and it's doubly difficult. And I don't want to complain about it because I love it, but it just is what it is.
Understood. And as we record this, we're recording this on June the 20th, the day after Father's Day. So happy belated Father's Day to you, sir.
Thank you, same to you.
Thank
And
you
of
very
course,
much.
Father's Day got squeezed out between Pride Month and Juneteenth, so Father's
Yeah.
Day really got no attention at all. I mean, I was out a little bit yesterday. I could get discounts for Pride Month and Juneteenth, but nothing for Father's Day.
Yeah, we not
It's
respecting.
kind of the
That's
norm. We kind of get the short end of the stick, so.
that's just that's a part of our day, man. That's you. I'm used to that. I wasn't expecting
Yeah,
anything special.
I don't expect a lot of Father. I
Yeah.
mean, my kids show me love.
Well, that's
But
it.
as far as it being a celebrated thing, as far as fatherhood being celebrated, especially black fatherhood, it's not there.
Yeah, you're right. And yeah, I mean, that's a whole, like you said, that's a whole other conversation. I find it amazing how disrespected black fathers are, and we're around more than any other race of fathers. We are
That's the
here.
thing.
You would swear we don't exist, but we put
You
our
would
kids to
swear
bed.
that.
You would,
I see
yeah.
more black fathers than I do fathers of any other race playing with the kids, being involved with the kids. But if you listen to the media and you listen to that very vocal minority of bitter people,
Mm-hmm.
you would think we're non-existent, and that's just not the case based off what I've seen. But we get the most disrespect, and I've got disrespect from doctors.
Oh my
Where's his
God.
mother?
Oh
Well,
my
his mother isn't.
God.
Well, I'm his father. Well, I need to
What?
talk to his mother. Why do you
Oh.
need to talk to his mother? I'm his father. I had to deal with that when my son was younger. We have to deal with things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of people aren't even aware of that. So,
You hit a nerve with me. I've
yeah,
taken I've this completely off the point. I've taken my kids to the doctor with my wife and
yeah.
had the doctor completely ignore the fact that I'm in the room.
Well,
She,
after you leave the room,
yeah, like, oh no, I haven't had that. And if they did, I'm not leaving. I don't care what you say.
I had somebody ask me that one time, and it didn't go well.
No,
It didn't go
that's my
well.
child.
But
But
yeah,
the doctor was sitting there explaining everything that was happening to the child and the mom. I'm there and I'm like, you don't even look over here? Like, what am I? Am I her bodyguard or something? I was like,
yeah.
I never understood that. So that's so true. With that said, I'm gonna step off the point. We talk in purpose, and we're talking purpose in terms of meta association, how you deal with people that come in, parents. What do you consider your purpose as a father?
To prepare my kids for the day when I'm no longer here. To prepare them for that day when their father is not here, so that they can function and sustain themselves and be positive members of society and live their own purpose. That's my purpose. Not to be their friend. It's not, even though we do hang out, we do have fun. It's not to be excuse my French, a hard ass on them. It's to be their father. It's to guide them, to nurture them, to love them, to instill discipline, to 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 enjoy the process of fatherhood, because I think a lot of us don't like we should. And so when the day where they put me in the ground or wherever they do with me, they'll be okay.
Yeah,
That way they can pass it on to their children
yes,
and
sir.
so forth.
Yes, sir. I feel you. That's very much, I feel the same way. What I always say to my kids is when I send you out into the world, I'm sending you like my representatives. Like
Right.
my child is a younger version of me. My child is going to be respectful. My son is going to be respectful to women. My daughters are going to be respectful to everybody. So my job is to make sure you go into the world, and at the very least, it may sound egotistical, it may sound a bit selfish, but my whoever sees my kids know they come from a house where they're loved, they're
Right.
respected, and that they're good people in the world. So that's how I take it. I take being a father incredibly seriously. And the whole
Yeah.
not being a friend, I mean, we can be cool sometimes, but if you like me all the time, I'm doing something wrong. That's what I've always taken from it. It's important. So I just wanted to hit that because Black fathers, like you mentioned, completely disrespected. And we hear just as, if not more, than any other set of fathers out there. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we made that point. Yeah.
And I add this purpose to being a father. I just thought of it. I can say one of my purposes in being a
Mhm.
father is to prepare my child to be the best them they can be.
Agreed. I
Prepare
like that. I like that. Yeah.
they can live their best life and
That's good.
provide the tools and everything they need to navigate this world.
Yeah. Yes. Especially with our daughters. And I know you just have a son. You don't, I have three
Well,
daughters.
I have two boys that came from me and three stepchildren, but they're
Oh,
all mine. I've got
okay.
five. I
I
got two
know.
daughters.
I'm the same. Two step kids, two biological. So I'm with you. Understood. Especially our daughters. It's imperative
Right.
that they know that they're loved and they're respected. Daughters that have good fathers have better self-esteem. They're more driven because that's what we give them. So it's incredibly important, especially Black fathers.
Right.
Especially Black fathers.
And you know how we instill that? We instill that by not what we say, we do it by our actions. We do it by our habits. I don't believe in role models. They're habit models, but not role models because
Mm,
everyone's flawed,
mm-hmm,
but follow people's habits.
mm-hmm.
So
I like
I make
that.
sure, I make sure I do things like, I don't let my daughters open the doors for themselves. Not even
Mm-hmm,
now. It's a
mm-hmm.
small thing. It's a
Right.
trivial thing. But
Mm-hmm,
when they date, they'll expect that.
mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. And it's not trivial.
yeah.
It's
It's not.
important. It may
Yeah,
seem trivial, but
it may
she'll
seem,
know. Yeah.
but no.
Yeah.
It's in how you talk to them. It's in how you reassure them. And things like that because they typically kind of peep men sort of like their fathers.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
it's
Yeah. Hmm.
and I don't mean to get off the topic, but men can usually tell when a woman has had a good father-daughter relationship,
Right.
usually in the dating process. That's
Yeah.
usually when we can first tell.
Hmm.
So, but that's a whole other show.
No, no, it's an incredibly, no,
But
it's a valid point. Uh,
you can tell.
yeah,
You can
you can
tell.
tell. Hmm. And yeah, so and I know I've dated before I got married, dated women where you could tell they came from troubled, growing up in a troubled household, or
Yeah,
they had self-respect and expected something from the man that they were sitting across the table from. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's fine. And to me, I have respect for her, but I'm like, all right, she came from something good. So
yeah,
that's somebody that I want to continue talking to. And it's an
exactly,
important, and that's
exactly.
a good
And,
thing.
and the thing is, and I know we're talking a lot about how people were raised and the upbringing, but I also feel as though almost, regardless of how you brought up and what you experienced, you still have personal responsibility to do the right and wrong thing.
Hmm.
So
Yes,
you
sir.
cannot sit up here and say, "Well, I didn't have a daddy, I didn't have a mama, I didn't get that puppy I wanted, so I this is why I broke the windows out of the candy store." No, you still knew right and wrong because society, in some level, is going to teach you that. You
Yes,
can't
sir.
sit up here and say, "Well, I wasn't taught this and taught that," but you still know.
Yep.
You still know the law. You still know the rules. So let's stop making excuses for people for their past for things. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Yeah,
Yes.
you have reasons, and
Hmm.
yes, you can make mistakes, and yes, no one's perfect. But in the long run, if you're still doing that same action over and over again, well into your adult life, and blaming your childhood trauma for it and not addressing it,
Hmm.
that's the thing. Not addressing it, then it's all your responsibility.
Yes, sir.
Because we all have trauma to
No
varying
doubt.
degrees. It's a
Hmm.
matter of whether we deal with it. Because addiction is nothing but unresolved trauma. I learned that personally,
Okay.
and
And
until I was accountable, nothing changed.
and with that, we move on because I feel like that's a good segue. The next letter in the word prize is R. The word is resilience. Resilience
Right.
is defined as the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. So, give us a situation, and I feel like you were kind of talking about one. Give us a situation, something in life that showed you just how strong you are.
Uh,
Go from there.
2017, around that summer, I have a lot of physical, chronic health issues. I got down about 130 pounds. I was sick. My mental health was poor. I was not on medication. I was really heavy into addiction, very depressed, life going bad, wife left, da 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 da, and I was at a point near death. But uh, I fought my way back. It took a long time, and in some way, it was 4 years ago. In some ways, I'm still doing it because I had to learn new habits. But that showed me when I beat that addiction, that showed me, okay, you can do something because you got off the cocaine on your own. Not saying that rehab isn't valuable, but I wanted to do it on my own, and I did it on my own, and I built myself up from where and who and what I was to where I am now. I'm not quite where I want to be, but just knowing that I can look back and think just 4 short years ago where I was and where I am now, they showed me that I do have some fortitude. And people that beat addiction have a certain, I don't want to say ego, but a certain pride. People that really beat it because they know really how down bad they were. So that's part of resilience. And as far as resilience goes, for another person, it may look like losing weight. That may be their litmus test as far as their resilience. It may be stopping smoking. It may be stopping another habit. So we all have our tests of resilience. It's just a
Right.
matter of what it is, and the magnitudes may be different, but at the end, they're all the same.
Okay. Okay. So you were low. You were on the verge of your life being over.
Yeah,
Do you have a moment? Is there, because there's always like this, the lowest point in your life. That's what addicts say, maybe the 12th step, when you've hit rock bottom. I guess that's what I was trying to get at. Do
yeah. I
you
remember
have do you have a rock bottom moment where like I can't do this anymore? I gotta go?
August of 2017. I remember it was after everything happened. Uh, the wife left, all the domestic stuff, all the stuff with my kids. Da, da, da. I was laying on the couch and I was looking at the wall and I was feeling really, really bad. They told me I almost died during that point, but I was looking at the point of the wall and I felt myself fading. I felt like my spirit was about to leave my body, but something was telling me, not yet, not yet. This is your rock bottom. It's all on you. It's like getting another chance, but what you do with it is kind of on you. And I knew at that point it was time for me to get up. And I realized there was the voice of God. And I'm not ashamed of saying that was the voice of God. Now I know some people may not, if you believe different beliefs, it's fine. It's all the same to me.
Right.
But when God spoke to me and God told me to start Meta Association, that was my rock bottom, but that was him lifting me back up. So it's almost happened simultaneously.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. All right. The next letter in the word prize is I. I saved that for the end. You'll see. The next letter is Z. The word is zeal. Zeal is
Right,
defined as enthusiastic devotion.
right.
What are you enthusiastically devoted to?
My work, my work. I do a nonprofit Meta Association. I do my public speaking. I'm doing life coaching now. I'm doing a lot of networking. I get up. I honestly go to sleep about 11 every night, but I wake up at 2 every morning because I'm excited to work. It's not the healthiest thing in the world. It's not the smartest thing in the world. But but a lot of, and I try to cut it down now. But I get up every day waiting on. I'm like this. When's the sun coming up? Come on, because people not up. I can't do it. I mean, I'm just enthused about my work because I've actually seen my impact helping people. And once you get that feeling, once you get that, because with addiction, all we do is transfer one high to another. I see what it's like to really help people. So that's what I'm enthusiastic about.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Yeah, about that 3 hour sleep pattern, don't do that.
I need to stop.
But if there was a reason to be up, it's because you
Listen,
want to do something, you want to do good. There could be
right,
worse reasons
right.
for getting only 3 hours of sleep. Um, what I want to ask is that you do a lot of different things. So when you public speak, when you're in front of people and you're talking to them, I would imagine you enjoy that.
Yes.
What do you enjoy about talking to? What do you enjoy about public speaking?
I talk a lot. Excuse me. So that's always good. I like sharing my story because I usually always can see a face in the crowd of somebody that gets it and or that has been there. And if I see that one person's reaction is like, you know what, I've been there, or if I say something that's like, you know what, I feel that, or that touched me, then that's what makes it worth it. Just that one person's reaction. So when I get that reaction out of several people, it's even more exhilarating because I know that I've said something that person will take with them and hopefully make it something transformative for them and make it more positive.
Did you have a person like you growing up?
Uh, I had several. I was blessed in the sense that I had several. I had my parents. I had my older sister who I looked up to, but estranged. There's another thing with family. I had several mentors coming up that I listened to. I recognized mentorship for what it was at a young age, and even at my age, I still have mentors and I have mentees. So yeah, and also fictional characters too. Like I'm a huge Batman fan. I like how he's prepared for everything and plan. I know this sounds so silly, but he's meticulous in his planning, and I've been that way too. So you find inspiration from it. If it's a commercial and it inspires you to do something positive, if it's a Cheerios commercial, then let that inspire you. Inspiration does not always have to be divine. It does not always have to be so serious. It does not have to be so regal. Sometimes it can be something as simple as seeing a mosquito on a leaf.
Mm,
That inspires you. If you get something from it, roll with it.
okay, I like that. I feel you. The last letter in the word prize, it is E, and the word is expectation. Expectation is described or defined as a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. So you are zealous and you love the work that you do. But let's talk about it. What do you expect from yourself? Where are you going to be? What do you plan on having succeeded doing in 1 year, in 5 years and in 10 years?
In 1 year, I hope to have Meta Association firmly established in a physical location.
Okay.
Continue to have my collaborative efforts, have some programs in place that I'm working on right now, have those up and running, and have my public speaking really going. In 5 years, I hope to be financially secure personally. Hopefully, have several satellite offices of Meta Association across the country. Be working economically with Black leaders to try to get a Black Wall Street in every major city in the country. Continuing my public speaking, get involved with other business endeavors with my children and make them successful. And in 10 years, maybe retire depending on what my health does. So I have a clear 1, 5, and 10-year plan.
Okay. That's not always the case with people. I mean, some
Right.
people, depend on what life is, we plan. Some people kind of live by the seat of their pants. They go day to day and they see what happens.
Yeah,
But it's also good to have a plan. This is what I want to do. This is a journey I'm taking. And we were talking earlier, you were mentioning how you were at your rock bottom, but now you're here. Do you know where you want to be? And I know I just kind of asked you that, but I asked this because for me, I don't feel like there's ever an endpoint to my journey. I feel like I'm always trying to get somewhere, and I may have a place in mind, but I'm still not where I need to be yet. Are you at
right.
the point where you've got, I'm going to be here and I've reached, or do you reset? Do you have new goals, new aspirations, new dreams
Every day, new
every day?
goals. Like when I hit rock bottom, when I started coming out, I made myself a 10-year plan. Okay. So it's 4 years in that 10-year plan. I'm actually like 3 years ahead of where I'm supposed to be.
That's what's
So
up.
I'm always coming up with new goals. Okay, I hit this milestone. Okay, go to the next one. Go to the next one. I'm always changing, always adapting, always doing something new. So while you may have those baseline goals, you have all those intermediary goals that you have to fulfill to carry you forward. So if you're doing that, then you can kind of be okay and you have a good roadmap for life. But you have to have goals and plans. Otherwise, you don't know where you're going.
Yeah. For me, I mean, as I'm going through, doing this podcast and writing and doing stuff, I don't ever want to be content.
Right.
For me, I want to always be like, wow, I could have gotten this done. Or, okay, I'm this, but way over there, there's something else I want to do.
Right.
So that's my continuous need to be motivated. I need something to keep me going. So I always
Right.
like to see if that's the feeling with others. So I appreciate you answering the questions within that mantra for the word prize. It ends with the middle letter, and that's I. I don't give it a word because I think the I represents something different for every man I speak to. So when you take away your purpose, your resilience, your zeal, your expectations, when we take away the titles, dad, CEO, survivor, everything else, all the titles that are thrust upon us, all these things that we're supposed to be, when all that is put aside, who are you?
Just a man who likes to learn. I love nature. I love peace. I enjoy my solitude, but I love helping people. And I'm the guy you might see in GameStop looking at games and strike up a conversation. You'll see me at the comic book store. You'll see me out and about, and I'm the guy that, hey, how you doing? You have a 3-minute conversation and think, oh, he was all right. That's just me. I'm just a regular guy. Nothing special about me. Nothing exceptional about me. I'm no different, no better than anybody else. I'm just George.
Is that enough for you?
That's more than enough.
That's good. That's good. All right. So I have a few random questions that I throw at the end. But before I get that, you mentioned something, and it's completely off the point. I love Batman,
Yeah.
and I always get into this question with people.
Oh.
Who, in your opinion, it's actually two because I got to get both. Who
Okay.
is the best Batman, and who's the best Joker, in your opinion? Movies, TV, whatever.
I would say the best. I would have to give it to Robert Pattinson because he gave the most complete performance. They actually showed the detective side of Batman, which I've wanted to see all my life, and they did it right. As far as Joker, I don't know. I don't think by default Heath Ledger. Well, Yeah, by default, Heath Ledger. But I want to see what Barry Keoghan does in his role. So between him and Joaquin Phoenix, between Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix as Joker, but Robert Pattinson is Batman. So that's my answer.
I love Batman. And I'm not sure. I think I might be a little bit older than you. I'm not sure. But the best Batman for me is always been Michael Keaton. From the
Yeah,
that I love
yeah,
that Batman. He's dark, but he's hilarious. You could tell he's a rich dude. Like he knows he's rich. He knows you're the man, but you're a little bit crazy.
yeah.
I
I might watch
love.
that Batman later
Oh,
before I go to sleep.
I love that Batman, and with that, and maybe it's just that might just be the bias because I grew up and I watched the terrible Batman show,
Yeah, the
but
'60s one. Yeah, I used to watch that at nauseam.
oh,
So
it was
yeah,
ridiculous. Oh, he was ridiculous. But I think Jack Nicholson was the best Joker too.
yeah, yeah. It depends.
I love him. Oh yeah.
But see, the great thing about Batman is that there's so many different iterations of him. You can get
Hmm.
the campy, you can get the serious, you can get,
Hmm.
it's that every interpretation is valid to someone.
Hmm.
So that's one thing I love about the character, but I just have my personal interpretation.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, I think Joker, the character, not even the people who play him, is probably the best villain
Best villain, yeah,
ever.
exactly.
So good that it requires a performance, an epic performance to really display him properly.
Hmm.
Heath Ledger basically lost his mind playing that part. Jack
Yeah,
Nicholson was a whole different person. Joaquin, he was amazing. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I,
They're
yeah,
working on the sequel to that now. So
exactly. Yeah. I don't see DC, I think, has the best villain because I don't think Marvel has anybody that touches him, but that's just
I'm more of a DC guy anyway. I'm
right.
not a big Marvel. I'm not a big MCU fan. So I mean, all that was kind of lost on me. It was kind of like watching a lot of MCU to me is like watching a video game.
Mhm.
It's
DC's
like
better. DC has better characters. They just don't know what they're doing. Like they should have kicked. You see what Marvel did with some like mid level characters?
yeah,
DC should have blown them out the water. They have so many better heroes. There's so much more they
yeah.
could have done, but they don't have the right people doing it. And I guess they're
We're
getting there, but no.
trying to. Well, if you remember a
That-
few years ago, back like 20 years ago, they had the Milestone line, which was their black-owned imprint label DC had, and they're finally
Right,
starting to do something with that.
right.
Unfortunately, the creator Dwayne McDuffie passed away, but that's something that's
Mm,
a producer I would love to get involved in
mhm.
because I'd actually write the screenplay with a black superhero.
Oh,
It's not a he doesn't have superpowers, but it's a comic book. So I'm working on it as a screenplay. So I'm getting a chance right now, having come through everything I've been through, to kind of dip my toe in things that I've always wanted to do.
that's good.
So,
That's
and
good.
that's another thing that letting the positive life can afford you. As long as you're breathing, if it's something you want to do, go out and make it happen.
Okay.
You might not be able to throw, play quarterback in the Super Bowl, but you can coach a little league team. You can coach.
Hmm.
You can get involved in something that you love in some capacity.
Yes,
Don't
sir.
just sit around and make excuses. Well, I can't do. Well, do something.
You're right. You're right. So we're gonna get slightly serious again.
Okay.
What are you afraid of that you cannot control?
Hmm. Uh, wow, that I can't control. I'm a bit of a control freak, so I'm always wary of other people in certain regards.
Right.
It's like, okay, something needs to be done, but I can't make you do it. Or if I'm trying to help someone, it's like, okay, you're bleeding right now. You need to hold this compress on. I can't make you do it. Even in mental health capacity, you need to talk to a therapist or get on your medication, but I can't make you do it. So that scares me. Not being able to make people help themselves,
Hmm.
and because you know what the end result is going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be them suffering in perpetuity, or something tragic happening. So that's what scares me is when I meet someone and I can see help for them, but they don't take it.
Isn't that's parenting 101?
Yeah. So
That's
sometimes feels like I'm everybody's parent.
yeah. I want to help you. Don't do this, son. This is what's gonna happen. Excuse me. And sometimes you just gotta let them fall. And you
Yeah.
don't want to. And I want to stop you from this. But sometimes our children have to make their mistakes. They have to have their own bumps so that
And
they'll appreciate it
goes,
later on.
that goes for our parents,
Mm.
friends, bosses. That goes for everybody. But I got one now. I'm just letting him bump his little head right along. You gotta let him do it.
Yeah, and it's never a good feeling, but hopefully in the long run, it makes them a better human being. And you just gotta
Yeah,
hope for the best. Yeah.
yeah.
So the other side of that question is, what are you afraid of that you can control?
Failure. I'm afraid of failing. I can control that by planning. I can control that by preparing, by staying prayerful, by keeping my faith, by working hard. And all I can do is control my circumstances. I can't control the weather, so things like that don't need to worry about it. But the thing that I can't control that I fear is failure.
Okay, I got you. Last question, and this is something that I kind of really got to thinking about with talking with men. And one thing that I kind of think is a true fact is a lot of the reasons that men are not comfortable speaking about, we're not raised to talk about ourselves, to talk
Right,
about our issues, to talk about our mental health. We're
right,
just raised to deal with it and move on. And one thing I kind of feel is a reason is because we don't have somebody to talk
right,
to and tell what's going on. Somebody who I could just tell what happened today, that if I needed to, I could just cry to, and I wouldn't feel judged. I wouldn't feel any reprisal. I could just do it. So my
right.
question is, taking away a spouse, maybe a child or whatever, do you have a person that if something went down, you could pick up the phone, call them, tell them what happened, and they would be there for you without judgment? Do you ever, as a man, have that person that you could talk to and tell them, and they would be there for you, no questions asked?
Yes, yes. I have my best friend Roger that I met when I was 19. I'm 44 now. We were the best men at each other's wedding. Our sons have the same birthday.
Wow.
Uh, we tight. And I know if I can go a month without calling, if I call him right now, say I need a place to sleep, he's got me. He's not gonna tell me. He's not gonna tell me what I want to hear. He's not gonna sugarcoat nothing for me, but he's gonna tell me. And that's just one person, but I got a couple other people because the reason I'm able to have those relationships with those people is because I was accountable to myself for my feelings and my flaws first. See, I had to work on myself and be accountable to myself and get over my own bullshit first. Then you can work on having those relationships with other people. Because you're not gonna have the excuse me, that kind of relationship with somebody if you're not right.
Mhm. That's
And
true.
another reason why, and I had this discussion with someone earlier. Another reason too, that men have a lot of problems confiding, especially in their women, is that unfortunately, people weaponize your pain against you.
Yep.
They'll wait till you're a vulnerable moment and bring up something you confided in them.
Yep.
Well, you didn't, don't, when you do that, nobody's gonna confide in you.
Yep.
And that's why a lot of relationships are close. That's why a lot of times women want more emotional intimacy, but men, we just not equipped to give it. But sometimes women have betrayed that.
Mhm. No
That's
doubt.
why they end up, in bad relationships because the man tells you something and he's vulnerable, and then you weaponize it or you bring it up again, then he's done.
Mhm.
He's
It's
not
true.
opening up for you.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is opening up for the next woman that's gonna listen, that's not gonna do it.
Right. Yeah.
But like I said, that's a whole other show.
Whole other show. No doubt. No, we as men and as in particular as black men, we have our
Yeah,
unique issues. We have our
yeah,
unique concerns, our unique problems. And it's that much more important that the woman or whoever our significant other is in our life that we can talk to. And for men, since it's hard enough to get a man to really open up anyway, we're pretty
yeah,
much giving you that one chance.
yeah. And we
So,
gotta feel safe doing it.
right.
That's the thing. Everybody wants to feel safe, but they're not worried about men feeling safe
Oh
emotionally.
yeah. Oh yeah. Safety
You
is
know,
not no we bring safety. We lead
yeah,
you to safety, but we don't get it. It's not a
yeah,
typical thing for us. So
right. And we
yeah,
got to change that.
yeah,
We
we do.
really do. And that's why we're seeing so much, so many of our young people dying in the streets
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, and social media just taking over. I don't have a fault with social media. I think a lot of it is useless and idiotic, but it's no different than TV. I mean, you can change the channel. You control what you consume.
Yes, you do.
So you can't blame social media. You can't blame rap music. You can't blame this. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you choose to take that in.
Oh, no doubt.
So,
You're
and
right.
like one thing I'm really big on, especially as far as my brothers, is man, we got to stop making excuses. Because when I left Memphis, all I heard was excuses about why folks didn't make it. The white man is the white man. Man, the white man ain't nothing new. You need to find a way around it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You find a way. You change your tactic. You know, and a lot of people don't like hearing that because they want to stay stuck on the old stuff, and then they preach it to our boys, and our boys come. I had a 7-year-old. I heard a 7-year-old say something like this about white folks, and I'm like, you ain't lived enough to say something about
Yeah.
white folks holding you back.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know, and it's time for us to cut the BS and just get real about ourselves. But brothers, we got to come together and without the women first,
Right.
deal with ourselves first.
Oh, very much so.
That's not,
That's
yeah, that's not to exclude the women, but right now we got to deal with home first. Then
yeah.
we can branch out. But we need a safe place where we can come first.
Right.
Because we got a lot of problems with each other that we got to deal with first. If we can't get along with each other, we can't get along with anybody.
Got that
And
right.
a lot of our mental health struggle, we don't understand. It's affecting us politically, economically, socially, relationship wise. If we could get our mental health in better state as a diaspora, we would see economic improvement. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, agreed. All of it starts at home. And
right,
even when you take it in terms of as a person, everything, your successes, your failures, whatever you do, it all starts with you.
right,
So I need to feel good about myself. I need to believe that I can succeed. I need to
right.
knock down these walls. I need to believe that I'm going to do these things and recognize that there's going to be stuff that will step in my way. There's going to be stuff that stops me, but it doesn't stop me. It's just a temporary thing.
Yeah,
I
and
have
if
to
you
be
plan
able to,
ahead,
yeah,
yeah, and if you plan ahead, you can circumvent it.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
plan
yeah,
ahead. You know,
yeah,
look at other successful people, and don't look at role models. I
yeah,
really hate the term role models,
right.
but look at people's habits. Look at Warren Buffett's habits. Look at W.E.B. Du Bois' habits. Look at habits of people that are where you want to be, and emulate those habits, those successful habits, those
Right,
positive habits.
right.
Make them your own.
Hmm.
So it's ways to do things. It's just we need to come together and talk, not only as black men, but black men, black women, white men, everyone. Because my vision long term is to see everyone come together. But I got to start at home first.
Agreed. Agreed.
So we just got to come together and start having some of these hard conversations. And they may get heated, they may not, but we got to have them. It's time to handle family business.
No doubt. No doubt. And with that, thank you very much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Where can our listeners find you? Social media, website, what's going on with you? Tell us everything.
Well, I'm based out of Dallas. My nonprofit is called Meta Association, METTA. You can reach us at www.metaassociation.org. You can also email me directly at gbrooks, that's GBROOKS, at metaassociation.org. I'm pretty active on Facebook under George P. Brooks. You'll see my picture there, so you can contact me there. My life coaching business, you can reach me at www.becomingunafraid.com. So I do life coaching as well. So either of those three ways, you can get in touch with me if you want to collaborate, have me come out and speak, anything like that. Just reach out to me and I'll get right back with you. I answer people personally, available almost 24/7. So, and I do have an office number. It is 214-810-6518. You can reach me anytime on that.
Tell me that one more time.
Sure. 214
Mhm.
810 6518.
Got it. Cool. All right. So we're about to end this. And this is just something new that I've thought of that I want to do. And I want this podcast to be something motivational for the men that are listening because in the last few years, we've gone through a lot. We've had COVID. Our economy's been trash. We've just had a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot in our faces that can keep us down,
Right.
to really affect our psyches. So as we complete, give me what you would give. What would you say to somebody who needs some motivation? What is your motivational speech, your motivation quote, or something to somebody who's like, I don't know what to do. I've been struggling. I've been trying. I was about to get something done, and then COVID shut me down, and then all the jobs were gone, or I couldn't leave the house, or I was just about to get this. I thought I was in this relationship, but she wasn't the right one. What do you say to somebody who feels like nothing is going right for them?
I will say, sit down and think about that one thing in life that not only you would do for free, but you would pay somebody to let you do. That feeling you get from that and follow that, then you probably have found your purpose. Once you pursue that, everything else will fall into place.
And with that, thank you for doing the podcast. Thank you to the listeners, George. It was a pleasure. Thank you for listening to the Men Are the Prize podcast, where your inner monologue is revealed. I will see you next week with a new motivational speaker, but I don't know if we can get any better than the man we just heard. Be well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.